Alright, hey guys, this is Derek Goff here again with part 2 of my blending nature tutorial. Part 1, we created this scene, real simple green texture, a little bit of bump mapping on the entire surface, and I also created this little bit of water here. But what we're going to do today is create some gradient textures. One's going to be a stencil and one's going to give some color, ultimately to try to get something more like this, where we get some of this transition in color depth, and then also transition the bump mapping so that it blends out, so it's a little more realistic. And then also, if we have time, we'll throw in a little bit of grass here too. So with that, let's get going here. Alright, so I've got our scene open again. What I have done is I've smoothed out the hills a bit, just using the sculpt tool, and I'll kind of show you what I did here. If I select this surface, zoom in on it here, go to sculpt mode, set it to smooth, press F to change the size. Oop, that reminds me, I better turn on my screencast for you guys. There you go. F to change the size, and then you can turn down the strength a little bit, but basically you can kind of just see it just really slightly changing that, and it's just kind of smoothing out the hills a little bit, so the peaks aren't quite as strong, and I think that looks a lot better. Seeing kind of a strong peak over here, something a little more reminiscent of some rolling hills with some grass and nice little lake down in here. I think that'd be really cool. Okay, so once we've got that smoothed out, let's go back in object mode, select our surface, go to the materials tab, and like I said, we're going to create a new texture. We've already got the bump one. I am going to increase that a little bit because it seems a little weak to me right now. I'm going to take that to 0.2. And the method is best quality. This is just a way that it interprets the mapping. I think that obviously looks the best. It's the best quality. And we're going to click here. We're going to go new. We're going to call this rough stencil. Okay, and the stencil has to go above it in the list of textures. And I'm just going to change this to call it rough. Okay, come down here. Once we have that one selected, we're going to change this to blend, vertical, show both, and I'm going to change this to global. And as far as I can tell, what global really does is it utilizes the object's position in relation to 0, 0, so that's kind of a starting off point. I'm going to change this to Z and this to Y. And you can figure that out by doing some test renders or by the image here. You can see now it's flipped it correctly, so the color gradient is going the right direction. If we go to map, you see it's just white, and then it goes to transparent, so you have an alpha 1, alpha 0. That's going to work for us. We are going to add in a few additional points in here, just somewhere like that. I do want to still keep some bump mapping out here, but not much. So let's just change that to like a 0.8. Oops, 0.08, and select this one out here, make that a 0.04, and this one here to like a 0.2, maybe a 0.3, and this one to a 1. Okay, so that's going to give us a nice solid white. You can see up here it looks just like a little tiny bit of blend, but it's actually a lot more than that. So if we just kind of position things here a little bit, just taking a stab at it, we'll do a test render to see if that looks good. Come down here, I'm going to leave color on now so I can kind of see where this is affecting. It'll help, it'll make it a little bit clearer. But we are going to click stencil also. So let's go ahead and give that a test render. Okay, so you can kind of see the mix of the white with the green. It's up at the top here. Somewhere in here is our blend line. It's not real strong, which is what we want, kind of blend it out and smooth. But you see the bumping is much stronger up here, which is what we want, so that looks good. I'm going to pause this while it finishes rendering. I'll be right back with you guys. Alright guys, I think I'm going to call that good. This is the final output here. I did do a couple more renders and a few adjustments. You can see I just kind of tightened up these center two to this first one here that I have full alpha on, and that kind of made that line a little bit stronger and also bled it off a little better. Also, I don't know if it caught it, but when you control click, it actually adds a point, or adds I guess a break on the ramp, which I thought that was a really nice little tip. So control click, and sets the alpha and everything based on the blend. Kind of cool. Okay, so we've got that done. Let's go ahead and turn off the color. We don't need that anymore. Now we want to do another blend, but this time we want to do one with color that's going to give us that nice kind of transition to the deep water to the top of the hill there. So what I am going to do is I'm going to use the rough stencil. I'm going to change the name of it, obviously click the 2, and I'm going to call this color blend. Okay, and so on this one here we're still going to do global. We're still going to do this as Z and this is Y, and that will get our blend the correct way. But what I do want to do is delete all of these points in here, because we're going to go from basically green to blue. So click on the white here. Let's set that over here to a greenish color. Bring it down, something like this maybe. Down here, it's going to be black, that's fine, but we want the alpha to be 1. So we're doing a full alpha here. And you can see the stencil is still affecting it, so if we move that up to the top, now it blends all the way through. Okay, so color, yes, yes, okay, that's all good. So let's add some points in here. Now again, we know that our midpoint is somewhere in here, so I'm going to play with this a little bit. I'm just going to set some colors, something like that, something like maybe this for shallower water. This is going to be our kind of beach area, something like that. Again, in here, still be a little dark, and then we have our green here and our green there. Okay, let's lighten this one up a little bit. Okay, so you can kind of see our blend that we have going here. Now this could be totally off on its point, so we're going to have to do some adjustments, which I will now. I'm going to do a test render, and I'm going to pause this, and I will be right back with you. Okay, I'm back here, guys. Sorry about that. So I've worked out the placement of the points here on the ramp. You can kind of see my transition from the green to the tan to the blue to the black, basically. And so that's going to kind of create our depth in the water. That's the best way I found to do it. One quick tip is when you're trying to do the blend, it actually helps if you spread it out like this. You can get things a lot closer. You see if I pull this in really tight, I can't even hardly see those. But it definitely gets the effect that we're looking for. So now if I turn on my water, which I had turned off for the render there, and I'm going to guess I got to shift it up a little bit. Oop, wrong object. Set the water, shift it up a little bit, and we're going to hit a render here. And ideally the water is going to hit just above where it transitions into that bluish tone color. So we'll see right here. Now you can kind of see there's a little blue there still. So I want to bring this up a little bit more, something like that. And then also, right now I don't have the water set up fully, but I do have a mirror modifier on there, or a mirror setting checked. But I'm going to turn that off for a second, just so I can turn on my transparency and see what it's doing. I find this helps me a lot. Turn that to there. We're going to set the filter up, which is going to give some of the color of the water. It's gonna create a little bit of depth look to it, but it's very minor. And also change this to 1.5. Tends to be a pretty good number, and I think that's good. If I turn back on the mirror, you're gonna see that's pretty much what we got. So now that should allow us to see that blue underneath. But one thing you do need to make sure to do is turn on receive transparent in the terrain, otherwise you won't see any light go through. So now if we do another render, We should see some of that bluish green coming through on the water, and it's looking pretty good. The transition's not as strong as I want it to be. The transparency, I believe, is set up correctly. Let's go back up here and look. That's for the ground. Something is amok here. Transparency, mirror. Oh, gotta turn the alpha all the way down. That's my mistake, sorry guys. And let's do it again. Practice as much as you want and you still miss something, so it's the way it goes. Okay, keep our fingers crossed. Okay, yeah, that's it. I'm seeing some of that color change. That's looking a lot better. Okay, yeah. Nice. You can kind of see some of this transitioning depths. That's exactly what we're going for. So, alright, that's looking great. I don't know that we're going to have time for the grass on this one, but we will for sure cover it in part 3. I'll probably also cover some of the other shrubs and small plants as well. We'll probably pull the camera back a little bit too, so I can create a little bit more of a plateau here to do my grass on, because obviously we can't grass this entire terrain, but we're going to make it look like we are. So, for now, I think we'll leave it there. We've got our nice green to brown transition. Our water is looking really good. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Sorry for the breaks in there, but some of this stuff just takes a lot of playing with. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice, is just play, 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 and happy blending.